I grew up in a church. I was raised Christian. I went to Lighthouse. The transition from 5th grade to 6th grade basically was the point at which I didn't really feel comfortable in a church anymore. I continued to go until I was about 16 years old when my dad realized, hey, if I keep making Sarah go to church, she probably will never go to church again. So he stopped making me do that and I stopped going to church. And when I was 18, I found out I was pregnant. And it was just like 6 weeks after my 18th birthday. Neither one of us were working. I'm like 6 months pregnant. We don't know exactly where we're gonna stay because my dad's trying to sell the house. This is like after my parents got divorced and all that. At that point, I went to church with my friend. At the point where they said basically like anyone can come up and get prayer, I decided that I wanted to go and do that. I mean, I'm 18 years old. I am not married. I am pregnant. I have no set place to live and $40 to my name. And I went up and the person who prayed for me was an elder of the church. It was in Bakersfield. And he basically prayed that I'd stop living in sin because God wasn't going to bless the situation as long as I continued to live with my daughter's father. It was at that point where basically I realized that most Christians were very hypocritical and judgmental, and I stopped going to church. It's one thing to, you know, maybe be quote unquote like living in sin, but it's a whole nother when you've got that like sin walking around in front of you. Skyla's dad and I broke up when she was 14 months old, at which point I became a single mom. But it wasn't until I went through all that and basically had decided that I was okay with being alone. I didn't need to belong to a church to be a Christian. I wasn't going to go to another church where people were going to be hypocritical and judge me. Like, I'm a single mom, and Christians don't like that. I can count basically on one hand the number of times I went to church from that point until last year when I went to Hope for the first time. Colin actually was the one who told me about Hope. So I sat there and I tried to convince Colin, like, I'm not gonna fit in at Hope, and this isn't gonna be, you know, I'm not gonna go to church because it's ridiculous. And Colin's like, just try it one time. Just come one time. And if you don't like it, I'll never bring it up again. So I went. And the funny part was that day, during the like conversational part of Danny's message, there was a lady behind me. She actually stood up and basically said the same thing I did. Like, I'm a single mom, and you know, it's really hard to like fit in anywhere. And I was just like, are you kidding me? You know, going to church, Danny would ask me like, you know, how's it going, Sarah? And give me a hug, and I'd just be straight with him, which was really cool because it didn't matter what I told him. It was okay. I didn't have to be like happy all the time, or, you know, like, oh, there's no problems in my life. And the best part was even, you know, it was like the day after Halloween last year, and I went to church and Danny's like, how are you doing today, Sarah? I'm like, man, I'm really hungover. And he was just like, well, I'm glad you could make it in, and like gave me a huge hug. And the point is that every time I came to Hope, it was okay to be myself, and no one judged me for it. And ironically, like, I actually made a lot of really close friends when I wasn't even trying. It wasn't like, oh, I need to really like reach out and talk to this person. It was just easy. So shortly after I started coming to Hope, Danny had another sermon and basically saying that we are built for relationships. And at that point, it really touched me, and I decided like, oh, what's it hurt to put myself out there a little bit? Nothing spectacular, nothing worked out, and it was just like, okay, whatever, you know, I'm just gonna hang out and try this and see what happens. And I started spring semester, and the first day of school I met Chris. I knew this was the guy from like the minute I met him. But there was this huge part of me that really felt like hatred inside of me, and it was from my past relationship. Basically, God put in my heart that, you know, like, all of that was weighing on me, and I realized that, you know, how can you fully like commit and love someone when you still have all this like crap inside of you that you don't know how to get rid of? So for weeks I'm like sitting there going, you know, how do you forgive someone who you despise so much for all the things that they've done and the pain that they caused you and all that? And it was actually I was driving to Kristen's house to stuff Easter eggs for the Easter celebration, and it was just this amazing day outside. It was so pretty, and I was just driving, and I just started to really like pray and thank God like for the things that He'd given to me. And because I mean, like, a year ago, if you were to tell me that, you know, I would be involved in a church and hosting house groups and like getting involved with the kids and teaching them, like, I would have said, you are out of your mind, you need to be committed. Like, are you kidding me right now? Like, I was afraid walking into church for the first time that the freaking building would catch on fire or something. Like, that's how not into church I was. That's how I felt about like the whole organization. And here I was, like, you know, 6 months later, and like my whole entire life had just basically like turned to 180. And I'm working towards like my last year at Cabrillo to like become a teacher. I, you know, was going to church and actually like feeling great about it. I have an amazing, like, outstanding man in my life who loves my daughter, you know, got baptized on Easter with my daughter, which is super cool. You know, I'm getting married, and it's like, I like seriously would have called you crazy if someone tried to tell me this would happen. And that's the whole point. Understand that God can work in their lives, but the thing is, if we don't have a place where we are comfortable and are not judged, you know, and not around hypocritical people, where people are real with you, that's the only way that, you know, your walls are gonna come down at all enough to like have a relationship with God and have Him working in your life. You know, Jesus didn't go and hang out with the holier than thou peoples. He was walking around with us, like the crappy, like, sinners, like, can't get our life together people. The whole I'm Sorry series was basically just like, hello, like, this is the problem with Christianity. Without like being able to hang out with the people who smoke pot or like have sex outside of marriage or like all the other things that go on today, if we can't hang out and listen and be there for them, then what is the point of being a Christian at all? I mean, seriously, like, those are the people who need the help, not the people who think they're freaking perfect and have it all together, you know? And the whole motto behind Santa Cruz Hope is no perfect people allowed. And like, had that not been the like saying and the idea behind this church, I would have never came back.